Suck. We have drama. Hey friends, so happy to see you today. So I have a lot to talk with you about, so we're just gonna jump right in. Today's video is going to be about if you feel like you are stuck in your healing, how to realign and, really pinpoint the next part of your healing journey, or it's going to be like if you've never even started before, and you don't really know where to start with your healing. This is going to feel really good for those two types of people, and by healing I mean mental, emotional, business. We're standing on business in terms of mental fucking health. Okay. I don't know why I'm getting I want to talk about all the different ways that we think about healing from multiple different angles, okay? And kind of the ways how these ways to try and heal actually can either like sidetrack us or sidestep us, like not even really focus on the right thing, right? We're going down a rabbit hole of stuff that's not actually really going to help us. Or just if it feels misaligned in some sort of way, like a lot of these things are missing something for you, then this video is going to be good for that too. Because there's so many different perspectives on how to heal, so many things, and I want to talk about what's wrong with all of them so you don't fall back into them again, and then what you can do instead, right? So let's jump right into it. The first thing I want to say is healing is messy, okay? I want to say this so that I die. Healing is messy. Dealing with your mental health is messy, okay? I don't know why I'm so, standoffish. This is really funny. I guess that's just the energy we're coming with. So I want to first talk about, I think, probably what we're all most familiar with is the medical model of trying to heal, right? So, you can think of going to therapy, trying pills or medication, going to treatments and such. And there are a lot of people who, do these and feel great after, and they do help. I think for a lot of people, it either one, feels like it helps in some ways and not others, or two, it doesn't really help a whole lot, unfortunately. And there's a lot of different reasons for this. It could be the medication that you were on didn't work. It could be that the treatments that you tried didn't work. Therapists are so vastly different in their education and personality and delivery of the service that they are providing. Maybe you didn't vibe, maybe they didn't have the right information for you, maybe they weren't, trained in the thing that you needed, right? Maybe they weren't good therapists, because that's the thing. I'm not trying to anyone, it's just a thing that happens. It's very expensive, and it takes a long time, so maybe, you were going good, then you got priced out of it, or, you were like, this isn't the right time in my life to really do this, right? And a lot of the times, too, providers will say that you are the problem, or your diagnosis, your experience is the problem, and not exactly, systemic issues or just what's going on in your life, or that you just haven't found the right thing yet. It's somehow a problem with you. And that's fucking crazy to me. But, only recently have our institutions really switched to try to figure out how to heal people. A lot of the times, these institutions have been about power and control and abusing people. You can look up countless stories of specifically psychiatric hospitals, medical institutions doing horrendous things to people without their consent, without their knowledge. Sometimes they didn't have a choice, right? They really just didn't have a choice. In the state I live in, we have to talk about it. Well, we had to. I don't work there anymore. But, we'd have to talk with every single person. Hey, this is what the state did once. We, kind of torture people. This is what these are for. There's also lots of research. I'm putting it in quotation marks because it's barely research, in my opinion, about, black people have smaller brains and, basically white supremacy, superiority, white people are superior to black people. So a lot of times these institutions have not actually been about what helps people heal, right? And through challenging these systems and changing these systems, a lot of them have tried to change. And a lot of, theories and research, it's not like it was all about power and control. A lot of this research was also good. So, these institutions now have only recently switched to trying to actually help people, the vast majority of people. And so a lot of the times medical model wasn't really fit for people because it wasn't really made to actually help people. It's made about money. There's also very specific frameworks in the medical model, so CBT, DBT, etc., etc., etc. So why am I talking about all of this, and what does that do with healing? So the medical model is limited for so many reasons. The pay structure, the models you can use, the education that therapists can get, or not get. There's so many things there. And a lot of the times, for it to be billable to insurance companies who have all the power, you have to have certain models, certain education, and that doesn't vibe with everyone. These sort of ways of really trying to intellectualize, emotions and experiences instead of just giving compassion and empathy and trying to help the human being in front of you figure out what they really need to move forward in their life. It just doesn't vibe with people, right? There's also a lot of research that a lot of therapists don't know. I've talked with so many providers and I tell them about things like polyvagal theory. I talk to them about, helping heal the wounded parts of themselves, right? IFS therapy, all these things. And they're like, I've never even heard of that. Neuroplasticity. I'm like, this should be like the standard, like baseline. We should all know this. This is how our bodies work. It's how we change, right? So not all of these providers even know that. And you can see it gets me going because I'm just very passionate about this, right? I feel like it should be standard practice. Like when we have updated research on how shit works, we should be teaching that to people. But again, these institutions are very limited and don't, they weren't created with having the most up-to-date information in mind. So basically, we try to do the medical model of diagnosis, treatment. We're trying all of these different models, modalities, pills, and sometimes, it can feel very exhausting and then it doesn't even work, right? By the end of it, maybe you feel more exhausted. You feel like none of it really, like maybe you grab some things here and there, especially maybe with the modalities like DBT and CBT, but it didn't really get you to where you wanted to go. And I'm sure you actually tried these strategies. I'm sure you if you're watching this random video on YouTube about why, am I not healing? You have probably tried hard, okay? You have probably actively sought out information and strategies to help you heal, and you haven't found that thing yet. You haven't found what the framework, the way that it really works for you. So, that's why the medical model doesn't really work for a lot of people. It's not all encompassing. It doesn't have all the information, and the modalities are very intellectually based. It's very much like for state and insurance, and not always how to heal. So let's talk about cultural now, and I want to talk about the ways that one in I'm from the United States, but it seems like a global trend. Emotions are not always valued. Okay, we live in a patriarchal society that is dominated by masculinity. Emotions just aren't valued as much. So they can even be demonized or punished, right? Punished for having feelings when you're crying or showing emotion. You can be punished or socially ostracized, And or that feeling through something, feeling anything, should be done in a certain way or a correct way. It should be done in private. You should be able to get through it on a certain timeline, and we can see this a lot in psychiatric hospitals. When I was in psychiatric hospital, I really noticed that you can't cope the way that you need to a lot of the time. In a way, I was almost like, why is this trying to keep us stuck? I couldn't punch my pillow. It would be like, oh, I'm punching my pillow because I'm angry. We gotta fucking take this girl out. We gotta make her go to sleep. So, there's a cultural reason for that, and the medical model too. But, there's these cultural ideas that we have around how we should be able to cope, to move through our feelings and experiences. We're supposed to get over it and push through, right? We're getting over it and we're pushing through, so we can get back to work, or we can, get back to what we were doing. And sometimes even feelings and, talking these experiences with others can feel really alienating, because people's reactions sometimes are not amazingly compassionate or connecting. Like, basically, I'm just saying they could be judgmental in a negative way, and you could, after trying to be vulnerable with someone, you could feel even less good than you did before, because you didn't really receive the, support that you needed from, trying to share your experience with another person, your problems, whatever it is. A lot of the times, our culture is about fixing. It's not about letting our experience be, right? Have you tried this? Have you tried that? It's not like, or I feel so bad for you. That's like so awful. Okay. Anyway, like, it's not really, it's a lot about isolation, disconnection, right? It can feel like, okay, I've tried X, Y, and Z. You think I haven't tried this? Like, you think I haven't really tried to go in on this? And what we really need is that connection, the understanding, that support, right? That holding space, for your experience. But a lot of the times people just want to fix it. Quick fix, here you go. Have you tried this pill? Here you go. Keep going to your psychiatrist. Just depression and shove through. So we have to kind of unlearn these dominant ways that we have been taught about our healing. And that is how we move forward to actually understanding the way to actually heal, right? I'm going to talk a bit more about how we get trapped in these cycles in a bit, but I want to go through a couple more kind of frameworks, mistakes, things that we get caught up in that keep us stuck. So another one is quick fixes. So like things like trying every single like herbal supplement, right? Or just new supplement. You're like, oh, that might cure my depression. That might make it go away. That might make my body calm down finally. And sometimes these actually work for a while. You can even put this framework into, anxiety medication and such. Now, I'm not telling you to go off your meds. I'm not telling you not to take supplements. I'm not telling you any of that. Okay. What I'm saying is that instead of doing the work, we can focus on those quick fixes. Because very often it's very sexy and appealing to say, I have the thing that's going to end this negative experience that you have. And we definitely want to lessen that, right? Like on medication, it's not like there's anything wrong with taking supplements or wrong with taking pills. Is that the end-all be-all, right? Are we also looking at the ways in which we are living our lives and trying to manage our experiences? That's why a lot of the times providers talk about turning the dial down rather than off in terms of our feelings, right? Because we still want to have, some anxiety, some sadness, whatever it is that you're dealing with, because then we can deal with it, move through it, right? Unless it's like a real big, like, chemical imbalance or something, in that case, we use the tools that we have, we try to rewire our bodies, right? We can also get stuck in our, depression, anxiety, trauma spirals and cycles, right? I think this is often viewed as step one of healing, is really taking a look at, the experiences that you have because of your depression, because of your trauma. And this is a very good first step. It's kind of like an asterisk for me, because I'm also like, we have to look at the medical model, the culture, the ways in which we're taught to try and heal these things, so we don't go down there too. But it's sort of like, if you have depression, what story comes up for you when you have depression? Is it that you hate life and that you think there's no point to it and that the world's ending anyway, so who cares, and everyone hates me and I might as well just sit here and wallow, right? Like, what's the narrative? It's a little personal for me because that's parts of my narrative, but what kind of shows up for you in your spiral, your hardest moments? What's the story that comes up? What's the felt experience, right? Because we can get stuck in those experiences, right? We can believe the story that, comes up for us when we feel depression. Oh yeah, I do believe that the world's ending, who cares? Yeah, and it's hard because you either feel like you have to challenge it or ignore it, right? Challenge it and be like, no, I do, and like try to make yourself believe, or just ignore it and move on with your life. And sometimes challenging it is the thing to do, and sometimes it's not. So this is why healing can feel so hard and confusing. But if we're trapped in this sort of cycle of, believing whatever comes up for us, whatever we're anxious about, or just, letting ourselves succumb to it, that's going to be the thing that, takes control. Basically, it's going to be the thing that takes control of the way that we're trying to heal. And instead of having these internal experiences dictate us, we're trying to learn how to manage it and still decide where we want to go and how we want to be despite those experiences, right? Despite these really hard narratives, these really hard feelings that come up for us, right? So we have to learn how we get off of that spiral. What helps you get off of the depression train, the anxiety train, right? That spirals and spirals and spirals down, right? What helps you get off? And if you don't know, that's a really good place to start is, or if you don't even know the narratives or anything, really noticing what's going on there, really noticing what are the narratives and everything like that. And then trying to move forward. We can also get stuck in this hopeful, hopeless cycle of, and this also has to do with quick fixes, which we'll get to in a moment, but we can get stuck in this, like, we have trauma, or we have negative experiences and we're looking for something outside of us to fix it. I'm not talking about ease, right? I'm not talking about like it, helping us. I'm talking about it ending it. Because a lot of people say, I just want my depression to go away. I just want my anxiety to go away. I don't want to deal with it anymore, right? So what we do is that we look for this treatment. We look for whatever this is, the coping skill, the treatment, the therapy, the model that helps us end it, right? Oh, this thing helped. It finally made my anxiety go away. It finally made my depression go away. And so we can get hopeful about these treatments, right? This happens a lot in the beginning, too, usually of our journeys, where we're like, oh, okay, this therapist said, okay, they can help. My psychiatrist, like, this pill could help. And then when it doesn't help, we kind of crash. We kind of can feel hopeless. We feel, disappointed about the result that happened if it didn't get us where we want to be. And this is surprisingly a huge amount of people. My cat's here enjoying this. It's estimated around 33% of people who try therapy and medication, don't vibe with it. It doesn't help. My cat's like, hello, you should pay attention to me and only me. And then when we find the new thing, new pill, new quick fix, this is also really for people where, again, it's like the new supplement, the new treatment, the new yoga technique, the new breathing technique, right? That you're trying to help to, end your depression, move your body through, right? It's instead of processing, we are trying to get out of the experience. It is another way that we are trying to run away. But it's masked very often, again, and this relates to culture as well, right? It's getting out of it, it's pushing through, it's suppressing, and instead of moving through and actually dealing with what's going on inside of us, right? But we can go on this sort of hamster wheel, and a lot of times what happens is that we kind of stop at some point. If you deal with this for years and years, and things don't change, you can kind of get to this point where you're like, I don't believe anything could change anymore, and I don't care. You're like, I'm just gonna accept this and be sad for the rest of my life. Whatever that narrative is that comes up, we can feel very hopeless about it. are disappointed, or this baseline of, oh yeah, this all sucks. Because, you know, what was promised to us, that, you know, there was going to be an end point, you were going to be healed, that didn't happen, right? So we can't get in that sort of pitfall of like, oh my god, yeah, and then oh no, oh my god, yeah, oh no, because it's only, it makes this process a lot more intense, and it makes this process a lot like more high stakes, right? And it can get that way very understandably when you're like, I need something to feel better. Like you're at your, you know, a low point and you're like, I really need this. Like I've been there and I get it. You know, so often what people feel like when they're at that point is relief. And the way to relief is through the discomfort, which I feel like is like the last thing you want to do when you're in like that state. I'm almost like gonna cry because I like just understand that so deeply. Because it feels like going through it is like, my life's already hard enough. Why are we making this harder? Why are you asking me to process through this stuff? When that's really the way through, right? That's really the way to relief, not forever, because life's up and down, right? Contrast, there's good and there's bad, there's happiness and sadness. But you will have more moments of peace and can rewire yourself to have more moments of peace, but you have to move through, you have to go through it, right? Instead of hoping that something is going to get you out of it and getting happy and sad, hopeful and hopeless. So there's a reason that this hopeful and hopeless cycle came before quick fixes, because this is a lot of the times what we can do with quick fixes, right? Because again, we need relief. And I'm talking both prescribed and recreational, right? And really, I think what I want to emphasize with quick fixes is that it's not a personal failure. It's not bad that you need it. Or if it helps you, okay. We're trying to move through. We're not trying to move away, okay? We're trying to have tools in our toolbox and not something that we're relying on, right? We're trying to stand on our own 2 feet and move through these experiences and not be dependent on something. So I kind of just went through all the ways that we can get caught up in not healing. Medical model, cultural narratives, quick fixes, hopeful, hopeless cycle, and listening to the narratives and experiences that we are having inside, right? Kind of like the first step. So if we're talking about this and like where to start healing, because that's what we're going to move into now, where to start healing and what to do about it, the first step, really noticing and knowing these narratives and experiences that are going on inside. And I already talked about that. So we'll move on to the next thing, which, I like to say, let's notice, are we on track or are we off track? And what I mean by that is when we're on track in our lives. So this is like, are we on track or off track in our lives? And are we on track to, are we feeling satisfied with life? Do we feel like we are in a state of well-being? Are we feel like, you know, we have purpose? Are we feeling positive emotions? Is our narrative, you know, good about life at the moment? And we might also be, I don't know what's going on my nose. I might also be off track, which is we feel like things aren't progressing. We feel stuck. We feel like our coping skills aren't working. We don't have enough tools in our toolbox, right? So we really notice, and you know, we can take this in very different ways. We can be like, oh yeah, I'm on track in this sense and off track in another. It's basically like an instinctive, like, do I have what I need for this or not? So you can think about what your hard experiences that you're dealing with, and you can think of, okay, am I on track or off track with this? Do I feel like I have a direction? Do I feel like I know where I'm going? Or am I off track and I don't really know what to do and I don't really know where to go next? You're probably off track if you're watching this video. You probably are, you know, searching for this just for the fun of it, right? You probably are feeling a sort of sense of off track. Something inside of you is probably saying, we're off track a bit. At least a bit, if not a lot of it. A lot of it. You know, since we're at this video. So Now we're gonna figure out why you're off track, okay? So after we've gone through and we know what we're dealing with, what we're experiencing, now we have to accept it, right? So actually I did the numbers wrong. So it's 1, notice feelings, thoughts, narratives. 2, on track, off track. And then 3, we have to accept the negative experiences that are happening to us. And sometimes this can be the hardest part. Accepting that we have certain narratives around what's going on. Accepting that we don't feel good. Accepting whatever this hard experiences that you're having is. Because, you know, we could think that the fact that we're having those experiences can be wrong. You know, we can sometimes feel like if we're on the hopeful, hopeless cycle, like, I've already tried everything. I've worked so hard. This should already be done, right? Like, this should have already worked, you know? And the thing, or maybe, you know, what you tried didn't help you the way that you wanted to. Maybe it made it worse, or made you feel bad, or didn't do anything. And we have to accept all of these feelings and experiences, right? Acceptance is so important. We're gonna get into why in a little bit. But this work is the long haul, right? Like, this work is about experimentation. It's about finding your way to relief, to satisfaction, whatever it is for you. We're trying to figure out how to get there for you, right? We're trying to figure out how you get off that hamster wheel, how you turn these negative loops into positive ones. I'm getting a little ahead of myself. But, you know, it's about, you know, finding your way to relief, to the good stuff, while also holding the bad, right? It's not, oh, goodbye bad, only good, only good. It's, okay, I'm living my life with this, you know, whatever, you know, hard experience it is, and here's some good stuff. How do we, you know, try to make it, my life's more about this and not about this than the other way around, right? And the way we do this is trying to change these negative loops that we're on, the, you know, depression, anxiety, self-sabotage loops, and more into these positive loops about focusing on positive things in our life, focusing on, you know, connection, joy, whatever it is that you are really craving in your life. And the real way to heal ourselves is to give ourselves compassion, you know, taking care of ourselves and giving the hurt, depressed, anxious parts of us empathy, right? Instead of pushing through or pushing away, right? We have to, you know, that's what people say when they meet yourselves where you're at. I always like to say too that one of my mentors taught me is, you know, meet you where you dream as well. We meet ourselves where we're at, and then we move towards our dreams, right? We move towards what we want in life. And the only way to, you know, change these negative loops into more positive ones is to experiment, right? And you may have tried things. This is why acceptance is important, because you may have tried things and you might feel resentful or angry or whatever it is about the fact that those things didn't work. And the only way to move forward is to keep experimenting. This work is the long haul. It is about trial and error. And sometimes something works and then the next day it doesn't, right? And you have to have those reps in, right? You have to keep going with what you have to keep going with different skills, with different techniques, right? Trying to rewire your brain and body. And sometimes that doesn't even work right away, right? So that still might feel bad at first, but it's about learning to navigate, okay, why didn't this thing I tried to work? And should I keep trying with it or should I not? Is it the thing that's going to, you know, build momentum over time to change how I feel about this reality? Or is it going to keep making me feel worse? And, right? We can keep ourselves stuck, right? And I'm not shaming or blaming you at all if this is where you're at, if this is how you're feeling, because this is part of the work, right? It's about acceptance, really working through the hard stuff that we don't really want to deal with, but we have to. It's about us trying to return to our center, trying to return to our state of regulation and work towards well-being. Sometimes it might only happen for a minute of the whole day where you feel awful, right? But that shows that things are rewiring and things are changing, right? When you have that moment, because maybe you didn't even have that moment before. If you had a glimmer, a moment where you were like, great, I felt good in that moment. I didn't feel like I was sad, or, you know, I didn't feel like I wasn't depressed about the state of the world or myself or my life. That's good. Let's focus on the fact that it happened and not, oh, it was only for a minute. Who the fuck cared? Like, that's good. That is showing that your body is changing. Your brain is literally changing. So, and what matters is that we, you know, have all these hard experiences, right? So if you don't know, you know, where to go next, or if you don't know how to start your healing, the first thing is returning to that center, right? Returning to that witnessing part of yourself, and, you know, not getting caught up in what's going on. So you can look at both the hard experiences and the positive ones, and then choose how you move forward, right? Because the work is about practice, practice, practice. Now that you know this is about practice, 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 you know, and experimentation, we have to learn how you get off of these hard experiences, how you get off of these spirals. And, you know, you have to be at a place where you're ready for that work. And if you're not, then that's where you start, is, you know, trying to return to center and, you know, trying to accept how you feel, trying to work through, and through, not around, through, not push through. We're just, you know, trying to work through why you feel like you don't want to do the work, or that this work is really hard, that, this is just the experience that's happening. You're so caught up in it, and it's a spiral, right? Spiraling with the world is stupid, or whatever. Everyone's judging you, whatever it is. You have to get to a place you can return to center. It doesn't have to be perfect. You know, you don't have to be like Zen or whatever to do the work. It's, you know, enough of where you're like, I can hold what's going on and try to do these coping skills and try to keep experimenting, right? Even if it's only a little bit, even if it's only for a few moments that I'm going to try new things, that's something. That is definitely something. So it can be hard, but the results are so worth it. Okay, whatever it is that you're looking for in your life, you know, passion, purpose, living healthily, changing cycles to thrive, right? Trauma, I heard once that trauma is the lack of imagination, and I don't know where I got this quote, and I wish I could find it, but I can't again. But so often when we're in these spirals, and we're really starting our healing journey or feeling stuck, it is so hard to imagine that a better life is there out. What? A better life is out there for us, that we can move out of how we're feeling into something better. And, you know, I'm not asking you to have hope for that, that's where you're at, but, you know, we want to live a life with passion, with happiness, with connection, right? And the way we move towards those things is by healing, is by working with ourselves, giving ourselves that compassion, you know, working through what's going on with us, right? So I hope that this video was helpful for you in that stance. Keep trying, keep doing things. If you feel like you want to dive even deeper into this, I have a free training that you can look at below that really goes through how to heal, the entire like healing process, that is backed by science, research, personal stories, all these different, you know, things that I kind of collected, and been like, okay, this is how this works. This is how this healing thing works. You can go and check that out. You can also subscribe to this channel and like it, like this video, because there'd be more stuff coming out like this all the time. I feel so passionate about talking about this stuff, and, you know, breaking the illusions that hold us back and hold us, you know, stuck in our trauma, stuck in our anxiety. So stick around for that. Check out the video if you would like. And I will see you in the next one.